Good evening. This is Chair Brian Haggerty, Chair of the Board of Trustees for the El Paso Community College, calling the meeting scheduled for April the 28th, 2021. We're running a little late. We had a long meeting with our Finance and Facilities meeting, but I want to welcome everyone. And I also want to let everyone know if they want to access this meeting, they can access it by dialing toll-free 1-844-621-3956. Enter access code 120-396-2155. Please press hashtag to access the call. And through a video audio feed found at youtube.com/GoEPCC. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment or question regarding an agenda item can email the comments or questions to the following email address: boardquestions@epcc.edu. All backup and related material for the meeting can be accessed at the following link: epcc.edu/administration/board of trustees. I want to call this meeting to order. Pam, please call the roll.
Mr. Uxer.
Present.
Ms. Sanchez.
Here.
Mrs. Robles.
Here.
Dr. Graham.
Here.
Ms. Najera.
Here.
Ms. Pena.
Here.
Mr. Haggerty.
Here. Pam, can we 1.4, please?
Yes, sir. Item 1.4, approval of minutes. The minutes recorded in the agenda are a summary of the presentations and actions taken. Tape recorded minutes comprise the full official minutes. Meeting of March 24th, 2021, Facilities and Finance, and the regular meeting of March 24th.
I have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
I abstain on the facilities and finance because I did not attend, and yes on the other.
Ms. Najera.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. 1.5, Pam.
1.5 is welcome to guests.
And staff members. 1.6.
Open forum. We have not received anyone to sign up for open forum at this point, Judge.
Okay.
Item
1.7.
1.7, presentations by individuals, groups, and organizations. Item 1.7.1, Ms. Tony Badillo, Dean of Dual Credit and Early College High Schools, will provide an update of the Early College High School program at EPCC. She's going to be remote, so she'll be joining. Here we go.
You're right outside, Dean Badillo.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I want to check. Wait, hold on. Would you like to do the pledge before we continue, Judge? Sir, please.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Haggerty, Dr. Zarata, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on our dual credit program. I am going to share the presentation. If you can give me just a second. Right, so if you remember, in years past, we have invited our partners from the different high schools and of course our deans to the board meeting. We didn't have one last fall, but I wanted to update you this year on early college high schools. So as you know, the Early College High School Initiative, which we joined in 2005, supports students underrepresented in higher education. And so definitely for equity purposes, right? This is a great program that El Paso Community College, again, has embraced for many, many years. Again, we support students, high school students, to earn an associate's degree while in high school. We have to follow a blueprint for the early college high school so that the Texas Education Agency can designate each and every one of the schools. We have 3 models. Our first original schools were on the college campus. We have 4 of those. We have 1 standalone, which is Flint Early College Academy, and the rest are school within a school. In 2019, we opened our first Pathways in Technology Early College High School, or PTEC. We're very proud that our students, 72% of our high school students in early college high school, earn an associate's degree before they graduate from high school. And to date, we have 20 schools. As I said before, early colleges have to be designated by the TEA, and they have to follow certain design elements, and they have to meet certain outcomes. And this designation can be provisional, especially up until the first graduating class of an early college, and then of course they can be designated early college high school. And they can apply to have some distinctions based on access, attainment, and achievement. When we opened our 4th early college high school, we saw the need to have a group that would, collaborate in issues common to early colleges. So since 2008, we have the Early College High School Leadership Council, which meets every long semester, twice a year. It includes members from Epcc, of course, administration, districts, and the TA, and of course our partners at Untitled. So the enrollment in early college continues increasing, right? From that very first cohort that we had in 2006 of 125 students, the increase has been consistent. In dual credit, we have had a few ups and downs, but early college high school enrollment continues increasing. In this spring semester, we have, a significant number of students in early college high school. And if you remember from years past, the percentage of early college high school students was very small compared to the dual credit, but they're definitely catching up on in terms of enrollment. So right now, 48% of our high school enrollment is early college high school students. And as you very well know, high school enrollment has been substantial definitely in this past year, with 18% of our students being early college high school students and 38% being high school students this spring semester. We have great success with graduating students and in an early college. So to date, we have 4,098 graduates, and that is not counting those students who are going to be graduating next month. So that number in the last bar is definitely going to increase.
Ms. Badillo,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I have a question on why did the percentage go down or the numbers drop on the, if you can go
In
back.
the previous slides? Right, so we have considered that question, and that's a really good question. So our enrollment in early colleges has not always been consistent. And so 4 years before that, we had a little bit of a dip in enrollment of that cohort.
It's not a little bit of a dip, it's a big dip.
I'm sorry?
Am I reading it correctly, that we went from 541 in 2015 to 512 in 2016 and dropped down to 309?
Right, so this cohort, the 2017 cohort, are the students who are gonna be graduating this May. So
Okay.
those 309 are actually early graduates, right? So those are students who have graduated in December, but they're still considered in that 2017 cohort. So that number is definitely going to increase come June.
The May graduate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you for your question. And so these are our 20 schools currently in operation. You have seen this slide before, but this time I wanted to show you the slide by district. So you can see how our first district is Canidillo with Northwest Early College High School, two schools in the Clinton district, one early college and a PTEC, two schools with EPISD, both early college high schools, two schools with Favens ISD, an early college and a PTEC, and of course, Socorro ISD with the most early colleges, one in every high school. We opened last fall, Tornillo Early College High School. We have 5 schools with Isleta. Of course, our early colleges, Valle Verde, Parkland, Isleta, and the newest one, Hanks Early College High School that opened this last year, and one PTEC. But definitely the trend now is really more PTECs, Pathways in Technology Early College High School. And these are schools that are early colleges, but they have a more focused pathway. There is, in terms of recruitment, students are recruited for a certain pathway. And we are really excited to see more of them coming up next year. So as you know, you have been approving some MOUs for the next school year. And so next fall, this fall, we will have 7 additional schools. We will have 2 PTECs with Clint ISD, Horizon PTEC, which is going to be focused on cybersecurity, and Mountain View on health occupations. We will also open 4 PTECs with EPISD. And their goal is, just like Socorro having an early college in every high school, having a PTEC in every high school, and offering those opportunities throughout the district. So again, the focus of these 4 schools is going to be business, computer science, health, and 2 schools in health. And finally, our Lone Early College High School opening this fall, and Elitario Early College High School. I'm really excited about all of these schools opening. And the TEA has already approved us for a planning year for an additional 7 schools opening in fall 2022. So as you can imagine, we have been very busy in planning all of these schools. So the schools opening in fall 2022, our first early college with a charter school, Harmony Science Academy Early College High School. Then 5 new PTECs with EPISD, and then by then each high school will have a PTEC. We will be opening 2 with the teaching focus, 2 with computer science and IT, and 1 with health. And actually, Monwood High School, that currently has an early college and a T-STEM, will be transitioning the T-STEM into a PTEC. So Synergy will become a PTEC with a focus of engineering, biological science, and computer science. So something that I wanted to bring up, if you don't mind, is, you know, it seems like I give you this presentation and I bring our partners, but there are a lot of people at the college that work to make sure that this is a possibility, right? That everything works well. And so definitely all of my fellow deans who are designated deans for all of these early college high schools, the faculty coordinators, the staff. I have to talk about my office staff, of course, they're fantastic. Our Epcc counselors that work very closely with the high school counselors to ensure that students are following their appropriate degree plans. Librarians, our student success staff, distance learning, and definitely our student services folks, right? The specialists under the leadership of Dr. La Chica Chavez, who enroll these students, you know, more and more, but been fantastic with great customer service qualities. And I just wanted to make sure that we know that this is not just a small group of people. It is the whole college that supports our early college high school initiative. And now, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
I do have a question, Ms. Badillo. Thank you for the job you do. I know it's amazing. But my question is, do you feel that we have enough personnel assigned to working with the early college? You know, because I don't want us to later during accreditation come out short because we don't have enough people attending to everything that's from enrollment to or recruitment to enrollment to, you know, making sure that the credits are all there for, you know, that there's no glitches. Do we have enough personnel working on this?
Well, I cannot speak for all the departments. I can certainly tell you that we have found tremendous efficiencies through the years. An example in the student services area, so we used to generate reports and email them to the districts and to the high school, right, so that they could check enrollment. And now, in combination with IT, the registrar has developed these dashboards that now our partners can actually get that information directly. I think the PTECs are creating some efficiencies in terms of advising because we will have a very focused degree plan for each student. And so they will know exactly what they need to follow. So obviously, again, the percentage of students, right? So we have the same, perhaps a little bit fewer students in terms of enrollment, but all of us have had to balance our work. I can tell you that our EPCC counselors are assigned to all of these schools. So they have to balance the workload, addressing early college and of course, our traditional students. So hopefully in the very near future, we will increase our traditional enrollment. Perhaps it will be time to reevaluate, right? If we have sufficient staffing for our high school students, but also for our traditional students.
And one other question on the issue that I hear complaints about, and maybe you can, it might not be your area to respond to it, excuse me, but it's when students are enrolling in you know, creating their schedules, they will go ahead and select a class or two or three, and then that class is already full, even though it just opened up. And then they go to their second choice. And again, their second choice is already a class that's already full. So then they've got to try and scrounge around to find other classes that are dual credit approved. Are we conscious of that and working on that to resolve that situation so that we don't have students spreading out that, you know, yeah, you can take dual credit, but it's hard to get into the courses because they're always full, which is probably not the case, but I don't know if it's a glitch in the selection, in the enrollment, or if we're not offering enough classes. What can you say about that, or whoever is responsible for that area?
So I can try and address part of it. I think that having teachers being credentialed to teach dual credit at the high school, that's something that we're all being working on to ensure that they have the appropriate credentials and that they can teach those courses. That really opens up more options at the high school. And so that kind of mitigates that issue that you're talking about. Once they become juniors and seniors and that they have to take those field of study courses that have to be taken on a college campus or through our faculty, yes, it is a challenge sometimes, even for our traditional students, right, to find the right schedule that meets their needs. But we try to address that, and I think that our graduation rates speak to the fact that although it might be challenging, it is definitely possible for students to complete their associate degrees sometimes a whole year before high school graduation.
Okay, thanks.
My question is, do we have any students that graduated in the years past that are now working for EPCC?
We sure do. We sure do. And in fact, not only their faculty now, they have master's degrees. They have been credentialed by us and they work for us. We see them also not only at EPCC, but at UTEP. We see them in Division 19. We see them back in the high school, right? There's quite a few teachers who are early college high school students prior.
Is there any kind of movement to try to get some of these past students to work with, I guess, Mr. Gonzalez? So when we go out and recruit these students, that they can go out and tell them their experience so that we might be able to get them to register?
That's a great idea. I cannot speak for Dr. Gonzalez, but yes, I think we can identify some folks who are already working at the high school.
Yeah, one is on the board agenda today.
It just it makes sense to me if we have these students that have experienced this, that they would be the ones that could relate to the seniors that are graduating now.
I think that's a great idea, Judge, because I know personally a pharmacist that went through the early college high school and is working here locally. Another one that works in one of the elite cruise lines that also graduated from an early college high school. So we should be like creating a video of some of these students and then showcasing it to the community, because that's an advantage that we have over all the other so-called colleges that are out there trying to take our kiddos.
There you go. Yeah, your running orders. Let's get that taken care of. Thank you again for all your hard work, and pass that on to everybody that's involved with the early college high schools. I know I have a niece and a nephew who graduated from Grants Mountain, so I know it works. So thanks again.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to acknowledge that Ms. Vadillo is extremely efficient at responding to complaints. The minute I get one and send it her way, it's taken care of. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I believe we're at 1.7.2, Pam.
Yes, item 1.7.2, optional written report submitted by presidents of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association will be read at this time. Chair Haggerty, we have one report that was submitted by the Student Government Association. Dear EPCC Board and College President, on behalf of the Student Government Association, I would like to share updates about our work and efforts that we are putting in to symbolize the voice of our students as we are approaching the end of the academic year. We have never stopped representing the Student Government Association's vision, goals, and legacy that has remained since its foundation. I want to start by objecting to the decision to have a virtual commencement ceremony. The class of 2021 has worked diligently and enthusiastically towards this moment because we have remained resilient despite the COVID-19 pandemic. We would like to hear from our graduating students about their opinion on having a virtual commencement ceremony. Many students on social media have expressed their unhappiness with the decision of a virtual commencement ceremony, and we want to reach out to all of our graduates of the class of 2021 for their opinion. School districts across the city of El Paso and the University of Texas at El Paso will have their graduations in person. UTEP has allowed 8 guests to the ceremony, prioritizing all safety protocols such as social distancing, the use of masks, capacity of 50%, and hand sanitizing stations. The same dynamic will be happening with schools associated with El Paso Community College, such as early college high schools. It is not appropriate for our students to be the only graduate class in the city and Region 1 to have the commencement ceremony in a virtual format. Although the commencement webpage of EPCC says that the virtual ceremony has many of the same components of a live ceremony, it does not include some of the key moments for our students. Recognize our veterans and current military students, and recognizing students with outstanding academic records, such as their GPAs, were missing during the 2020 virtual commencement ceremony. As part of the class of 2021, we want to have the best experience from EPCC and keep our graduation on an in-person ceremony like the other institutions. Moving to our updates, we have the honor to serve in several committees through the current academic year, and we have already completed some of them successfully. On March 29th, we had the last grade appeals committee meeting in which President Eduardo Flores and Vice President Alan Garcia participated. In addition, some of our members have contributed to the Quality Enhancement Plan Committee, in which at this moment we have held 2 meetings and the next session is scheduled for May 6, 2021. Further, on April 8th through the 10th, we attended the virtual Texas Junior College Student Government Association Convention, and we had the opportunity to speak with other students from Texas. This year, we presented a resolution against voter suppression. We urged the TJCSGA to promote democracy by making voting easier for all Texans, including students, by finally adding Texas to the 40 states and District of Columbia that allow online voter registration. Additionally, ensuring that all large college campuses have voting locations for the thousands of students on their campuses. President Flores and Vice President Garcia also served on the resolutions committee of the TJCSGA, in which we were able to edit and recommend a better writing scheme on other resolutions proposed. We are honored to announce that the TJCSGA passed our resolution at the General Assembly. We are also privileged to introduce the new scholarship called Rising Platinum Stars that has now been published on the scholarship website of EPCC, along with the existing Student Government Association scholarship. Both scholarships will award students that had demonstrated solid devotion towards their academic careers. The scholarship recipients will be congratulated at the EPCC SGA banquet that will be held online on May 7th, 2021 at 1 p.m. The Student Government Association is also excited to share that the Tejano Food Pantry has received $5,000 through the efforts of the Mindfulness Club to continue to minimize hunger among our students and their families, especially during these challenging times. The Tejano Food Pantry continues its operations and has received requests from students as to how Dr. Serrata indicated at the town hall last month. We want to thank President Serrata for his words about our work in the Tejano Food Pantry. We also want to express our deepest condolences to the family of Raul Hernandez for his loss. Raul began working in the Student Leadership and Campus Life Department in 2010, where he brought with him the passion, experience, and desire to create a cheer and mascot program for El Paso Community College that continues to this day. The Student Government Association will be creating an endowment in the amount of $25,000 that in the future will be used for a scholarship in his name to maintain and honor his legacy at our institution. Sincerely, Eduardo A. Flores, President of the Student Government Association. That concludes the reports, sir.
Okay, do we have any communications? 1.8?
Item 1.8, communications, none. Item 1.9, Board of Trustees business. The first 4 items under the Board of Trustees business will be discussed in executive session. So we'll read those at that time. And then item 1.9.5, Dr. William Serrata, College President, will update the Board of Trustees on the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And we have some handouts that we'll share with you all as well.
Thank you, Pam. Chair Haggerty and members of the board, Pam will provide those handouts, and I will also call on Vice President Shaughnessy and Associate Vice President Flores to provide some information with regards to the American Rescue Act of 2021. Let me take you back first to the CARES Act. To date, the CARES Act was approximately $17,631,901, of which $8,295,000 was specifically allocated to students. In addition, the CARISA, or the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, as we call it, CARISA, was funded at $38,242,997, of which, again, $8,295,072 was allocated for student direct aid to students. The American Rescue Plan, to date, it has not been released, but the estimation of the college's award is $63,448,000, of which $31,724,000 has been allocated specifically for students. We continue to monitor it. It has not, the Treasury Department has not released that payment, and we will continue to move forward. But I know Ms. Shaughnessy has a presentation, and then we'll be open to questions as well.
Thank you, Dr. Serrata. Good evening, Chair Haggerty, President Serrata, members of the board, and members of the audience. Just wanted to give you a very brief synopsis of what this American Rescue Plan Act is. We're actually overwhelmed by all this money coming in, and you know, there is better, I mean, this is a very good challenge to have, but there's also a lot of responsibility and accountability in accounting for those funds and certainly allocating the funds in the best interest of the college. So let me see, I'm gonna make sure here I have a, okay, this is not advancing. I apologize. Maybe I'm not doing this right. Here it is. So which one do I use? The top. It was kind of slow. So which one? Ah. So this one go. Still slow. There we go. Just have to be a little patient here with this remote. So as Dr. Serrata mentioned, the American Rescue Plan is $1.9 trillion. This is the COVID-19 relief package that has just been signed into law on March 11th, 2021. It is the third major aid package related to COVID-19. And Dr. Serrata already covered what we already benefited from. So you can see that obviously the $16.6 million from the CARES Act benefited greatly the college. Half of that was for our students. Under the CARISA, which is a supplemental award to the CARES Act, an additional $36.3 million or $8.3 million for student aid. And then the MSI, which is our Minority Serving Institution award, we are so far have received $3 million. $40 billion has been allocated to higher education, to include $3 billion for minority serving institutions. We do not know yet what that might be for El Paso Community College, but there is a chance that we'll get part of that $3 billion. Now, just to kind of, all this guidance here is coming from the literature that we have researched. This is complicated, just like any federal law that is still seeking some clarification, guidance, and we try to get that information from the Department of Education as much as possible. We know that as once awarded, the ARPA funds must be spent by end of calendar year 2024. The Treasury Department is to pay the first tranche to local governments no later than 60 days after enactment. So 60 days, we're hoping to hear by May the 11th. Second payment would be no earlier. Went a little fast here. Sorry about that. The second payment will be no earlier than 12 months after the first payment. Now, this is what we have researched. This is the kind of guidance that we have received. So what substantial benefit are we looking at for EPCC? We are slated to receive $63.5 million, as Dr. Serrata mentioned. 50% of that is designated to student aid. has to be 50%.
Ms.
The other
Shaughnessy-
50% is designated to institutional needs.
Ms. Shaughnessy, may I ask a question? On that, on the 50% designated to student aid, and I know that we're still waiting for guidelines and some additional feedback from the Treasury, but what does that mean? Or what do we think that may mean in terms of designated student aid?
Well, right now under the CARISA, that means direct aid to our students in the form of direct awards. But CARISA actually has applied with CARES Act, we're pretty limited. It could be only direct awards to students. It could not be applied to any tuition. Under the CARISA Act, actually, if the student allows us to do so, we can apply some of that award towards tuition. The other thing that is also being clarified on the CARISA Act is that any past student debts that were incurred as of March 13, 2020, can also be covered under that funding. So again, we're still seeking a lot of guidance. Colleges are still trying to figure out what is it we can do. Obviously, it bodes well for us to be able to help our students who do have some kind of a student debt. Some kind of a tuition debt because they lost their job, they had to drop classes, whatever that may be. We're hoping that we're able to help those students out.
And then just one other question, and I don't want to keep you from doing your presentation, but as it pertains to the student aid or even of what we know of the American Rescue Plan Act, does it identify or separate out students because of their immigration status? So would Dreamers be included? Would they be excluded? Do we know at this point? That my understanding was that under the CARES Act allocation to the colleges, that was an exclusion. So I was wondering if that had been clarified yet, or we still don't know.
So I don't know. I know that under CARISA Act, the Dreamer, it was still not included. However, under the American Rescue Plan, I don't know, maybe Dr. Gonzalez knows, but I am not aware. Dr. Zarata, I'm not aware that it's been clarified.
You're correct, Ms. Sanchez. Under the CARES Act, as well as in CARISA, we were not allowed to designate resources for Dreamers. Under the American Rescue Plan, there's still interpretation that is taking place at the Department of Education. We expect with the current administration that they are leaning towards allowing resources to be utilized for Dreamers, but we don't have final interpretation yet.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So at this time, we are still waiting on notification from the Department of Education, and the way we will be notified is we'll receive an email to direct Epcc to consult the G5, which is the Department of Education website. And we have checked on a regular basis, and we still have not seen a notification of grant award. So what are the eligible uses of funds? So from really where we currently, the kind of guidance that we have, it's really general. And it really applies right now to what we have found out pretty much to obviously the $1.9 trillion is going to a lot of different entities. $350 million of that is going to county and state governments. And then 40 billion of that is going to higher education. So in terms of general guidance of uses, revenue replacement is certainly something that certainly is welcome. And that revenue replacement would be for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, as it is relative to the revenues collected in the most recent fiscal year prior to the emergency. So just to give you an example, under CARISA, we were blessed that actually the use of CARISA funds, which is also retroactive, by the way, to March of 2020, allowed us to actually recoup some lost revenues. So lost revenues in tuition, lost revenues in commissions in auxiliary services, distance education fee, parking fee, and the like. And so we are hoping that this kind of funding here can be applied to those kind of revenues, those kind of lost revenues. We have made some calculations, by the way, of in terms of looking at our trends over the last 3 years and then comparing the revenue during those last 3 years and specifically the previous fiscal year prior to COVID-19. And we have a very good calculation to show should we be audited for the justification of recouping any lost revenue under CORISA. Right now, the Department of Education is hoping that the provisions that were included for CORISA funds and CARES funds actually apply to the American Rescue Plan. The other use of those funds could be the COVID-19 expenditures or negative economic impacts of COVID-19, including assistance to small businesses, households, and hard-hit industries, and economic recovery. So that's really the general guidance. How does it apply to community colleges? Just to give you an example, the kind of funding that the kind of uses for the CORISA and the CARES funds are really applied to such things as, for example, the transition from face-to-face instruction to online cost. For example, any kind of protective personal equipment that we had to purchase, anything that is related to the pandemic in terms of additional costs that we've had to incur, stipends for faculty, in terms of training for our faculty. So a lot of those costs that can be justified because of COVID-19, we're hoping we can also recoup under the American Rescue Plan Act. Something that is also included in this act is a premium for essential workers, i.e. those workers that are needed to maintain continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructure sectors, and those that are designated as critical to protect the health and the well-being of residents. Again, how does it apply to us? We would have to seek additional guidance. Another item that was included in the use of those funds is any investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So as you can see, this is very general at this time, and we really are waiting for specific or clear guidance on those uses as they apply to community colleges. As I mentioned, the Department of Education anticipates that positions on lost revenue, which is extremely important under the CARES and CORISA, will apply to ARPA. I mentioned to you, I already talked to you about the lost revenue for Epcc, what it would include. So one of really the important thing that we need to consider when expending or making a decision on expending those funds. So GFOA, which is a very vocal, very visible organization, the Government Finance Officers Association. This is, by the way, the association that certifies our comprehensive annual financial report. They are very much involved in any kind of promulgation of laws and regulations. So this is the guidance they are giving. And this is very important because those funds, just like the CARES funds and the CORISA funds, they are non-recurring in nature. Once those funds are gone, we need to be very careful how we're going to expend them because we're not going to see them in another 3 or 4 years. You should be applied to non-recurring expenditures. In other words, we cannot be using those funds to grant a permanent salary increase that's going to carry from 1 year to the next. So sorry for those that are listening and are thinking, oh, we're going to get a salary increase with those funds. We do not advocate for something like that. We also need to avoid creating any new programs or add-ons to existing programs that would require an ongoing financial commitment, and that makes sense, unless we feel like we can sustain those programs going forward. So definitely something that we need to think about. High priority should be given to replenish reserves used to offset revenue declines during the pandemic. Now, we did not do that, but there are some entities that truly did that. They had to use their reserves in order to balance their budget. This board did not adopt a deficit budget. We balanced our budget. That means that we had to cut back on our budget. So we don't have any per se reserves to be replenished. However, it does not mean that in the process of recouping our lost revenue, that lost revenue then does not go into our fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. Use of those funds to cover operating deficits should be considered temporary. In other words, you need to certainly exercise additional budget restraint to achieve or maintain a balance in future budgets. So as I mentioned, some entities that may have passed a deficit budget in the past, they cannot be counting on those funds forever. They would have to make sure that they can balance their budget on a regular basis. We can also look at an investment in critical infrastructure, which is very well suited for this type of funding because it's, again, a non-recurring type of expense. So what are going to be the strategies for the use of those funds? Well, first, we're waiting for confirmation, right? We want to make sure that we are authorized to spend that money. And then we're also obviously waiting for additional guidance so we can better strategize. We're working on allocating the CORISA funds and incorporating the recovery of lost revenue into this year's budget and, of course, the next year's preliminary budget. And this is something that you're going to be very much aware of when we present to you on May the 14th. And that may be a long meeting because it's going to be a lot of information that's going to be shared with you in terms of what are we currently doing with the funds that were awarded to us and how do we spend, 30-some, $40 million, right? So we will give you an update on those COVID-19 awards and their use. And then we're going to strategize for those funds. Again, if we're getting $60-some million, half of it going to the student, the other $30-some million, how do we strategize to spend those funds, which really needs to include a long-term view of the biennium budget and potentially through December 31st, 2024, assuming that that date does not change. So again, it's still very premature at this point, but we're going to be working very hard in the next few months, definitely before the adoption of the budget, and certainly to present to you on May the 14th what the plan, or at least what the preliminary plan is going to look like, assuming that we get that funding. So at this time, this concludes my presentation, and I will be glad to respond to any question if I have the answer.
Judge, may I ask a question? First of all, I want to thank Dr. Serrata and Ms. Shaughnessy for putting this onto the agenda and really at least being able to prep the board in terms of what's coming in mid-May. And I think that's a good thing to do, at least to know what we can anticipate, and hopefully it can streamline that conversation, I think, for May 14th, to know that this is our version of a stimulus package for our students and for our institution. So thank you for doing that. The one thing I was just going to ask is, one of the points in here, and I know we don't have a lot of that information from the Treasury, but there was discussion in terms of, okay, we know that generally this is what some of the resources can be allocated to. So the reserves issue or broadband or water and wastewater, not within the college's purview. But the only thing I would add is that we also know, though, that a lot of the other local entities, the city, the county, I'm assuming UTEP, are receiving their own allocation to also include the school districts of this type of funding. And it's a substantial amount of funding. And I don't know if this is a plan or something to be done, or maybe something that staff can do to start those conversations, but to the extent of really going out to these entities and others who are receiving these funds and seeing how can we leverage that. I think in each of these institutions, there's probably similar needs. I think, say, for example, from maybe the city or the county standpoint, they're looking at economic development. How are we revitalizing our businesses? How are we revitalizing our economic development sector? I think that would tie in nicely to what the college does for its students, and work ready and our students getting certificates. And what does that mean? What kind of jobs are we looking at now, not just as a Band-Aid to help to see where we came out of this pandemic, but what we can really think outside of the box and do as we move forward away from this pandemic, and really use this as an opportunity to build and to really think outside of the box on those sorts of matters. And so that's what my ask would be, if we can somehow have a conversation, do that outreach. I don't know if other entities are doing that, but I would not want for this to be a missed opportunity for that. The only other aspect I would like to see, and I'm sure you all will already have this done for the next meeting, is to see, based on, after you've been able to collect your ideas and recommendations, I'd like to see at that May 14th meeting, maybe a percentage of where you would like some of these funds allocated. So we know that 50% has to go to student aid, understandable, but for that other 50%. So do we know, or can we anticipate, say, for example, this percentage tied to this amount we would like to use for COVID-19 mitigation efforts, or this amount that we would like to use for the revenue replacement? I'd like to see what you all would recommend to that end. I think that would be helpful to know. So
We certainly can do that, Ms. Sanchez. I think that Dr. Serrata already has some pretty good ideas. Some of the challenge that we're facing in this next biennium and the following biennium is sort of unknown at this time. So we certainly need to strategize for that too. But certainly with this kind of funding, we should be able to allocate, different pots of money for different things that are certainly critical. But I'll let probably Dr. Serrata chime in because he probably has a better answer than I do.
And the only other thing I was going to add before Dr. Serrata, before your comments, is that December 2024. That's the time frame in which the college and all these other entities need to spend their money. So, to the extent that we can, get a calendar together, I'm sure you will do that, and you all will get ready to do that. But I know they have not released the guidance. We know that first disbursement is coming in mid-May. So we need to work fast. And as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, I think realistically, to understand, we need to fund what we can fund and realize that we cannot, this doesn't continue after this year or after the next 3 years when these funds get expended. And so, I know we're careful and diligent, but we really need to be mindful of that time frame and get our strategy together quickly so we know what we need to do within these next couple of years. It'll go by pretty quickly, and we don't want to miss that opportunity.
So Ms. Sanchez, every year we say we have a challenging budget development process. And I'll tell you honestly, I cannot think of any other time that it has been even more challenging than this year. Certainly, because again, you have to be very strategic in certainly allocating those kind of funds. And I think there's tremendous accountability. And by the way, anytime that you get money from the government is also tremendous amount of reporting. And they're going to want to know where you're spending that money. And our auditors are going to be looking at how we are monitoring those funds. They're going to be looking how we're reporting those funds. Our rating agencies are going to want to know how we are spending that money. And they did ask last time that we had the surveillance review, and they were very pleased with the way we did it, but that was with $16 million. So certainly, this is a good challenge to have, but it is also a lot. I know all of us are going to be working diligently to do what is really in the best interest of the college and, of course, our students.
No, Ms. Sanchez, I certainly agree. There's a couple of things that keep me up at night, and this current budget session, currently, it'll be in my report as well. We're currently looking at approximately a $1.5 million cut from state appropriations. However, the state is going to receive a significant amount of resources as well. And Governor, there was a press release today that Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and Speaker Phelan announced the $11.2 billion in new funding for Texas public schools. There was thought that they may turn down those resources because there is a maintenance of effort requirement within that, which will free up approximately about $1 billion for higher education. And so we don't believe that in this current biennium, we believe that we'll be able to use those one-time resources to keep everyone whole or flat funding for all the institutions. But we've been through this before. In 2009, the Great Recession hit, and we didn't feel the effects in Texas until the 2011 biennium. And that's when we were cut rather dramatically. Community colleges, higher education as a whole. We hear a whole lot about the independent school districts being cut dramatically, and they turned around and sued the state because constitutionally the state must fund, and they were able to put these resources back in. My fear is that in the 2023 session, we will see a similar economic situation within our state because we have so many federal resources flowing through us to us now that my fear is that we will see those significant cuts in the 23 session. And so for what we would like to do is, and we will certainly bring forward as you requested, percentages, things of that nature. But we believe that these resources can help make us whole, so to speak, through the next biennium is in 23, which would be all of fiscal 24. So September of 23 through August of 24. And then it would take one more semester when these resources need to be expended. So that would only leave us the spring and summer term before the next biennium resources come in. So we are certainly moving forward and working with these resources to ensure that we don't see, to do our best to ensure that we don't see any reductions in force, any furloughs, to ensure that we're ready to serve the community. We anticipate a significant enrollment increase as soon as this fall, based on the economic conditions of our community, quite frankly, our region, our state, and our nation. We still have nearly 7 million people that are unemployed this March that had jobs last March. And so we believe that reskilling and upskilling will be a significant part of that. That was one of the items that CARES Act dollars were utilized, for instance, in San Antonio. Bexar County utilized a portion of their resources and funded Alamo colleges to do upskilling and reskilling. We took that model. The 50 community colleges, the Texas Association of Community Colleges took that model and put forward the TRUE initiative, Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education. It is a $50 million ask to the legislature. It is sponsored by Chairman Creighton on the Senate side and Representative Parker on the House side. It appears to have widespread support from the legislature. So we feel that that will be funded, but we took what one institution was doing and one county were doing and tried to replicate that for short-term credentialing in order to get our community members back into living wage jobs. They're stackable credentials, they could come back, but we certainly understand exactly what you're saying. And Ms. Shaughnessy, Mr. Flores and their team have continued to lead the institution in planning. And we will certainly look forward to the May budget workshop where we can present where we are. And by that time, we hope that we will have accepted the resources from the federal government as well.
Thank you very much.
Item 1.10, Pam?
Item 1.10, board reports. Item 1.10.1, Treasurer's Report of March 31st, 2021. No action is necessary. Item 1.10.2, President's Report. Item 1.10.2.1, Dr. William Serrata, College President, will update the Board of Trustees and audience on recent events that have transpired at the college to include an update on the COVID-19 pandemic and appropriate actions taken.
Chair Haggerty and members of the board, I'd like to go in first. It's so good to see each of you in person for this meeting. So let me just acknowledge that the full board and I, as well as legal counsel and Pam and staff, our media services, it's really good to be with everyone. We're obviously adhering to all of the social distancing requirements and CDC guidelines. But I'd like to go through some actions that were taken since our last board meeting. I participated in 93 virtual and/or in-person meetings, traveled to Austin twice to advocate for the college and community colleges as a whole. Meetings included, I met with Governor Abbott's Chief of Staff, Luis Saenz, and Brady Franks, the Deputy Budget and Policy Director. Attended the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education press conference. Chairman Senator Creighton and Representative Parker co-sponsored the legislation and each spoke. Mr. Woody Hunt spoke on behalf of business owners, as well as Brenda Hellier, the chair of the Texas Association of Community Colleges Board, and Austin Community College student Carlisle Champion, who completed a short-term training program in plumbing at Austin Community College, spoke. Met with the Director of Senate with the Director of Senate Committee on Higher Education, Joel Resendez, who works for Chairman Creighton. Attended the Business Advisory Council meeting, which I serve as the advocacy co-chair along with Mr. Massey Villarreal, who is the CEO and president for Precision Task Group Incorporated. Met with Representative Claudia Ordaz Perez. Met with Vice Chair of Appropriations, Dr. Gonzalez. Met with Marion Wallace, who serves as Lieutenant Governor Patrick's Education Policy Advisor. Met with Commissioner of Higher Education, Dr. Harrison Keller. Met with Representative Ortega. Met with Senator Blanco's staff. Met with Representative Fierro. And met with Speaker Pro Tem Moody. And then met with Jacob Friday, Dustin Metter, and the TAC leadership staff. Budget conferees have now been named in both the Senate, which includes Senate Finance Chair Nelson, Senator Huffman, Senator Kokors, Senator Nichols, and Senator Taylor, and the House, which includes Chair of Appropriations, Dr. Bonin, Vice Chair of Appropriations, Dr. Gonzalez, Representative Capriglione, who's the Article 2 Chair, Representative Wally, who's the Article 6, 7, and 8 Chair, and Representative Wilson, who's the Article 3 Chair. Article 3 is our area of the budget. The current appropriations, as I mentioned earlier, indicate up to a $1.45 million cut for EPCC. Participated in 16 Texas Association of Community College meetings as we continue with our strategy for the legislative session, including 5 joint legislative leadership meetings with TAC leadership, Community College Association of Texas Trustees leadership, and the Texas Community College Teachers Association leadership, 3 TAC Legislative Committee meetings, 2 TAC Business Advisory Council meetings, the TAC Executive Committee meeting, a TAC Quarterly Board meeting, as well as a Strategy Planning meeting, and a TAC CEO only meeting. In addition, attended 2 Digital Texas Steering Committee meetings, participated in the Federal Reserve Bank Board of Dallas Joint Board of Directors meeting. I presided over the American Association of Community Colleges Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting. I participated in the Public Policy and Government Relations Committee meeting and presided over the American Association of Community Colleges Board of Directors meeting. I participated in the Achieving the Dream President's Colloquium and participated in the Higher Education Research and Development Institute meeting. Also participated in 4 Excellencia in Education meetings, including the Excellencia National Briefing, and then held 2 COVID meetings with the college COVID team, which includes Dr. Pena, Ms. Field, Mr. Flores as well. I was appointed as a board member for the Lumina Foundation and attended my initial board meeting. April is Community College Month, and External Relations and Marketing team has been busy sharing the EPCC story and the important role of community colleges. As our region emerges from the pandemic, EPCC will continue our tradition of working to strengthen the workforce, align education with business needs, provide students a pathway to a degree, and accelerate our economic recovery. Community College Month is an opportune time to showcase the importance of EPCC in our region. To date, the college has had more than 60 mentions about student, faculty, or program accomplishments in the media, both in English and Spanish language media. That means our community, including our business and industry partners, donors, as well as our current and future students, are hearing about the EPCC story as they read the newspaper, watch television, or surf the web. Some of the stories that were highlighted in the media showcase the accomplishments of our faculty, staff, and students, including EPCC was ranked number 5 in the top 14 architecture schools in Texas as a best value school for studying architecture. EPCC's Chemistry Club was named one of the top 15 programs in the nation to complete a chemistry degree. EPCC connects students to high-paying jobs and a living wage. During Community College Month, we promoted the fact that EPCC offers training for nearly all of the 50 highest paying jobs available in El Paso. EPCC student Eileen Garcia was chosen as a semifinalist for the Jack Kent Cook Foundation Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship. EPCC was recognized as #1 for awarding degrees to Hispanic students for the 16th year in a row by Hispanic Outlook magazine, and many more. The Networking Systems and Technical Support Services Department worked on the email upgrade, which began in mid-February and was completed shortly after spring break. Employee mailboxes were moved online to the cloud, resulting in increased storage capacity for each user from 2 gigabytes to 50 gigabytes for each employee. Email will continue to be accessed in the same way with the introduction of new features, and there were no outages, any outages or disruptions during the upgrade. So kudos to the team. The networking systems and technical support services department re-engineered a financial aid and admissions registration call center. The call center went live on Monday, March 22nd. The feature of the call centers ensure all of our students' calls are answered. All calls will receive a greeting queue for students requesting assistance from either financial aid or admissions and registration. The system allows students to leave a callback number to stay in the queue without losing their place. The automated system will also be used to make outbound calls for student campaigns. I'm happy to announce that on April 7th, EPCC was honored at the Texas Association of College Technical Educators annual conference. The college was presented with a certificate from the governor of Texas that recognizes EPCC's leadership in integrating the industry-defined manufacturing production skill standards into the Industrial Maintenance Associate of Applied Science degree program. The program has also been recognized by the Texas Workforce Investment Council. We're one of only 20 colleges in the state that offer one or more programs that have earned this designation. Congratulations and thank you to Mr. Aaron Munguia, Industrial Maintenance Faculty Coordinator, for integrating the standards into the curriculum and applying the TWIC program recognition, and Dr. Olga Valerio, our Dean for ATD, for your leadership and support of our faculty and students. Congratulations to Math Professor Fan Chen on being the recipient of 2 prestigious teaching awards. Professor Chen has been awarded the Mathematical Association of America's Southwestern Section 2021 Distinguished Teaching Award and the 2021 American Mathematical Association of Two-Year Colleges Teaching Excellence Award. Excellent work and congratulations, Professor Chen. Our dual credit students continue to excel. Bel Air High School's Health Occupation Students of America EMT team won 2nd place in the 2021 Virtual Texas HOSA state competition held on March 24th through the 26th. High school seniors Ana Plaza and Ria Romani will move on to participate in the virtual international competition to be held on June 23rd through June 25th. Congratulations to our students who excel in the EMT Basic Certificate Program. Special thanks to EPCC EMSP faculty, Ms. Sandra de Canal, who teaches dual credit classes at Bel Air High School and serves as a great mentor for our students. That concludes my report. Chair Haggerty, members of the board, I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions? Thank you so much, Dr. Serrata. You've been busy.
A little bit.
And you're gonna get that 1.4 right by the end of the session.
We honestly believe, Chair, that we will receive that hold harmless resources based on the tranche of dollars that the state has just received and will continue to receive. It's the session after that I'm worried about.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, Pam, administration.
Item 1.11 consent docket, there are no items. Administration, item 2.1, the following 32 TASB local policies are presented for adoption, 2nd reading and approval. E,
Move.
instruction, and F, students.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye, and thank you, Dr. Perley. That's a very good job.
Ms. Nahara,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item section 3.0, personnel. Action items is just item 3.1, discussion and action to approve full-time staff and faculty recruited in positions funded by the institutional budget.
Chair, I'd like to request that we move this to executive session. I have some concerns to discuss regarding the manager of online enrollment appointment and the process that was employed in the selection of the individual.
Any objection by any board member? Okay, we'll discuss it in executive session. 3.2, Pam?
Information items, resignations, and retirements, no action is required. Section 4.0, financial services. Item 4.1, discussion and action on the approval of the three-year contract with CenturyLink Communications for district-wide enterprise telephone line services at each campus in an amount not to exceed $279,885 for a 3-year period.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question?
Mr. Exer.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Naheda.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 4.2, discussion and action to approve commencement of negotiations for a contract with Pena Briones McDaniel and Company, PC, for financial and compliance audit services for the fiscal years ended August 31, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Move
to approve.
Second?
Any discussion?
I do have a comment, Judge Haggerty, over here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so on this one, I noticed that the action item is to approve the commencement of the negotiation. So I assume that it'll come back for final contract approval. So I guess the only comment that I would have, and I apologize if this was me previously, but the only comment I would have is whether or not you need that approval to move forward for us to give you the go-ahead to do a contract negotiation, right? And the only reason I say that is because, I don't want you all waiting for any type of board action where it's not necessary so that you all can go do what you need to do to go negotiate, because the final action will be when we approve that contract, right? And so that would be my comment. However, I don't know if there's a board policy or did I say something? And so that's why we're doing this approval to do the contract negotiations.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
We were just following a two-step process that we followed in the past for professional services, where the first step is to commence negotiation and to ask the board approval to do that. And then the second one, of course, we'd come back to the board in May to approve this particular action. So we were just following the process in the past because there was a request at one point. Honestly, don't remember who asked.
I thought it was me.
I don't remember who asked. So I think we were doing that mainly for architects
Okay.
and because our professional services. So when we do an RFQ, then we thought that we had to do a two-step process as requested. So we certainly will be very happy to eliminate that step.
Well, if it's part of, I guess, your written policy, I mean, I certainly don't want to create any sort of disruption. The only thing I was thinking of more for efficiency on your all's end is, it is a 2-month process. We meet once a month. And so, I don't know what the circumstance could be for a particular contract, but I could see in a situation, for example, that you all need to act and you need to do what you need to do. And so
And we appreciate that.
bring that contract back, and then that's our point for discussion. I mean, that's just my.
And I believe from Mr. Gallardo, it is not required by law. We still have to do negotiation for sure internally and reach out to the selected. But what I'm hearing Mr. Gallardo say, we do not have to come to the board for that first step. But we certainly have to come to the board for the approval of the contract, which we will do in May.
Right. And so with the policy needs to be changed. I mean, that's just my feedback. Just to, thinking of just some situations that you all need to do what you need to do.
And I agree with Ms. Sanchez, because we don't want to delay the inevitable that we have to enter into these agreements or contracts. So there's really no need for us to go 2 steps if we can do it in 1.
And we appreciate that.
Especially if it's just, we know you're a penny pincher anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, go ahead and do it this year. Call the
Mr.
question,
Exer.
Pat.
Mr. Exer. Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Section 5.0, physical facilities. Item 5.1, discussion and action on the approval to award a contract to Business Associates for the purchase of classroom furniture for the Trans Mountain campus in an amount not to exceed $86,213.
Move to approve for 5.1, 6.1, and 6.2.
Second.
Go ahead and read 6.1 and 6.2, Pam.
Item 6.1, discussion and action on the approval to add 2 additional courses to the existing pre-approved contract award with a CBEESC Incorporated in the amount of $27,800. Item 6.2, discussion and action on the acceptance of a grant award of $100,000 per year from Texas Mutual Insurance.
Any discussion on any of these items?
Salud.
Call a question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Section 7, Student Services. Item 7.1, discussion and action on the sole source procurement of a 1-year service agreement renewal with Civitas Learning Incorporated in the amount of $58,512.
Move to approve 7.1 and 7.2.
Second.
Go ahead and read 7.2, Pam.
Item 7.2, discussion and action on the acceptance of a grant from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Texas Reskilling Support Fund Grant Program, Round 2, in the amount of $112,500.
Any discussion on these 2 items? Call a question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 7.3, discussion and action on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for new courses.
Any
Motion to
motion?
approve. Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 7.4, discussion and action on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for revised courses.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. Executive session.
The Board of Trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about the value or transfer of real property, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security personnel or devices, or discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce that it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session. Item 1.3.1, discussion with legal counsel regarding pending litigation styled Rhonda Brown versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 1845 in the County Court at Law number 3, El Paso County, Texas, pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.2, discussion with legal counsel regarding pending litigation styled Daniel Rogelio Vasquez versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 0212 in the 120th Judicial Court, El Paso County, Texas, pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. 1.3.3, discussion with legal counsel regarding the suspension of an employee in student and enrollment services pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.4, discussion with legal counsel regarding an easement and sale of real property adjacent to the Mission Del Paso campus to the County of El Paso pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Discussion with legal counsel regarding pending litigation styled David Leslie versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 1107 in the County Court at Law number 6, El Paso County, Texas, pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. 1.3.6, discussion with legal counsel regarding pending litigation over the 2020 County of El Paso wage rates pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.7, discussion with legal counsel regarding the possible purchase of real estate located near the entrance of Mission Del Paso campus pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Board will now go into executive session.
Okay, the board is back in session.
What time is it? 10:05.
We have a few items to go over. Item 1.9.1, Pam.
Yes, sir. Item 1.9.1, discussion and take possible action regarding pending litigation styled Rhonda Brown versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 1845 in the County Court at Law number 3, El Paso County, Texas.
No action.
Okay, 1.9.2, Pam.
Give me 1 second here. My page is okay. Item 1.9.2, discussion and take possible action regarding pending litigation styled Daniel Rogelio Vasquez versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 0212 in the 120th Judicial District Court, El Paso County, Texas.
No action.
Okay, 1.9.3, Pam.
Discussion and take possible action regarding suspension of an employee in student and enrollment services.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the suspension with pay for up to 60 days for the employee in the Student and Enrollment Services Department. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer. Aye. Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 1.9.4, discussion and take possible action regarding pending litigation styled David Leslie versus El Paso County Community College District, cause number 2020 DCV 1107 in the County Court at Law number 6, El Paso County, Texas.
No action.
Okay. 1.9.5, Pam.
I did that one already.
Oh, we did that one already.
We need to go back to personnel.
Personnel. Oh, yeah. We have
3.1.
Table 3.1, Pam.
Item 3.1, discussion and action to approve full-time staff and faculty recruited in positions funded by the institutional budget.
Oh, it would be a motion to approve the full-time staff and faculty recruiting positions funded by the institutional budget except for, I can't turn the page, the position for the online manager. Is that-
Manager of Online Enrollment Services.
Uh,
Ms.
Minus the position for online management services.
Second,
Any discussion? Call a question, Pam?
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. The next board meeting will be May 24th, you said?
It will be May the 26th, Judge.
Okay, we need a financial and,
4 p.m. Facilities and Finance meeting, 5:30 regular Board of Trustees meeting.
okay.
Is there any, would you be able to get out a little bit earlier so that we could start the meeting an hour earlier?
Putting me on the spot, Dr. Graham. For which meeting? The September?
Or the May one, because it's gonna be a long one with,
I will make it work, Dr. Graham, for what, yes.
You
Well,
want to move
maybe-
it up to 3 and,
since some of the board members are already gone, maybe Pam could.
We'll pull the
check
board. We'll pull the
and
board,
see
Dr.
if,
Graham.
okay.
And just for some of you, we will also at that meeting need to swear in the trustees that were recently where they did not have anyone run against them.
Incumbents.
So we'll be having to swear them in during that meeting at that time. So
So that's the same day we're having the budget, right?
No,
Yeah.
the budget's on the 14th.
No,
budget's on May 14th.
It's on May 14th. That's correct,
Okay.
Judge.
It's a workshop on the 14th, May 14th is a workshop. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for all the work in setting this up.
Yes, it was very good.
You guys did a great job.